Thank you
Thank you,
very
Tamia.
much. I think I'm in a similar boat. I think that the year has gone by like so fast. I don't know whether like I'm like happy about that or not. I guess I don't really have an opinion on it right now, as weird as that sounds.
I mean,
Um, Go ahead.
if one thing I have to say that came as a benefit was that I was able to, with like cutting the time of transit and
Mm,
having everything be at home, I just had to be with my own thoughts.
mm,
And, I'm an artist, that's what I do. And so I've been able to like create and recreate and push myself forward in regards to like what I make for art, public art.
mm,
Um, so I felt like I just needed a year reset.
mm.
Like that's how long it took for like the last 10 years of like working, going to school, figuring out what I wanted to do to like really remember what I enjoy and what I like. And I just had to be by myself to do that.
That's pretty deep and pretty powerful to think of it that way, right? In terms of everything that's happened, everything that's going on, everything that's kind of also unearthing, that's kind of always been there, right? Whether it be your artistry, whether it be like the racist systems like that are here, right? And having to kind of unearth that a little bit more. And what does that mean? So thanks for sharing that, especially the talk about like returning to yourself and being like, oh, here's what I love. And now I have this time to do it. And so this is what this looks like for me now. And that continuation of figuring out that process. I think that's really cool. What about you, Auntie? How you feeling?
I'm a little hungry right now. So I'm on camera looking like I'm chewing the cud, as my mother used to say. I'm eating Ritz crackers. But I'm actually doing pretty good. Like, it's not like things are like everything is great by any means, but I don't know. There was like a good energy today in general. I guess I should say Tamia, she, her, hers, intercultural student affairs. And like this morning I woke up and I had to go to CVS before my workday started. And people were just light and airy and happy. Like and maybe part of it is me, it's my lens, but there just feels like an energetic shift in the past few weeks, and I'll take it. And it's not that things are great. It's just that like hope has returned to some degree. So I'm doing okay.
Word. I appreciate that. Even sharing like part of the stories and even your lens and where you come from. No, that's cool. I think there's definitely something shifting. We can kind of muddle through that a little bit too as well. How about you, Carol? How are you feeling today? I know everybody's at lunchtime. That's kind of when we do this, so everybody's eating. I understand.
All right, I'm putting myself on video. Yes, I am eating, but it's okay. Um, yeah, to me, I actually agree with that. I feel like it's been some kind of air has been lifted in some ways. It's not great yet, by any means, like you're saying, but I do feel like there's a little bit of a relief or brightness somehow. And I think that's good. It's good to just know that and to sort of feel that. I also think, though, that the holidays do bring a variety of different kinds of feelings, whether it's hope, but it's also anxiety and thinking of past holidays, thinking of family members, thinking of maybe old friends or whatever it might be, or and what we can or can't do this year. I mean, I know my plans are altered. We're going to be outside and in the driveway for the most part with food to go, which is, not what we typically do. Hopefully it's not the new tradition we're going to set going forward, but we're going to try to do what we can around holidays. And but there's also, sadness that comes up always because of holidays sort of that are lost and different from the past. um so there's a mixed reaction of feelings that I have around holiday time always.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you kind of sharing like the complexities of that, right? Like we're allowed to hold all those feelings. Like we're human, we're complex individuals. And so we're allowed to have joy and we're allowed to have like sadness and we're allowed to have everything in between and everything outside of that. And kind of thinking through what those look like. So that actually kind of brings me to like part of this conversation. We can kind of just go ahead and start in and dive in. And that was an excellent segue, Carol. So like I appreciate you for that. For sure, for sure. But I want to like ask, like you mentioned traditions and things like that. Like I want to know, what are like some traditions you have about the holidays, or like some things that like you just love about the holidays? Like I just want to know.
Is this a question just for the general room?
Yeah, it's for the general room. It's just us. We're gonna talk amongst us.
Oh man, that's a it shouldn't be that hard, but it is a hard question. I'm gonna have to say that the one thing I do look forward to is Black Friday shopping. I know that's like um I mean, I don't have the strongest family background, so we definitely have a lot of divide between us. I come from a very blended family. Um, so going home for the holidays has never been like my favorite thing to do, but I do have a sister who we get along with very well, and we always end up going Black Friday shopping together. So it's like the one time where we can like uh, we have very similar tastes, so we can get along and shop together. I know it sounds silly, but that's like the one thing we can do. And I also really just enjoy New Year's. New Year's is my favorite holiday.
I love that. I love that bringing in like, no, it's not silly at all. And being honest about the fact, like, maybe not actually enjoying going home for the holidays, but here's like this one thing and this one person that I do enjoy. And that brings me like that happiness. Like that's what's up. Thanks, best friend. Anybody else? What do you love about the holidays?
I can answer that. I guess one thing I want to say is that so today it's kind of a big day for our young people who are bringing some issues that are happening around campus to the forefront. And so that might explain why we have an absence of them today, but they are here with us in spirit, and they are always in our hearts and souls, and we are always with them as well. But so Christmas, or sorry, you said holidays in general. I love Christmas, and me and my best friend, we share this. Um, I'm moderately obsessed with it. Like the first year I bought my condo, the day after Halloween, I put up my Christmas stuff. Typically I wait until right after Thanksgiving. So I love Christmas movies, and typically Thanksgiving is like the moment, the next day where I can sort of I allow myself to start all of that hardcore. The shopping starts all year. I mean, it's all year round. Like I have a drawer called the Christmas drawer. If my best friend were here, she'd know. Every now and again, I open the drawer and I'm like, damn, I'm like, why is there so much stuff in there? Like, who bought all this? But then I see stuff out there and I'm like, oh, this person needs this. And it ends up going to the Christmas drawer. But yeah, so one of my favorite things to do is to watch Christmas movies. And I have a few that I watch every single year without fail, over and over and over again, but they start on the day after Thanksgiving. And that includes National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, Gremlins 1 and Gremlins 2. And Elf also has slid in there as a, more modern film. And then I have others that I throw in like throughout the season, like Home Alone and Home Alone 2. I actually love Home Alone 2. I do. And what else? Other things, all the other classics. So A Christmas Story and things like that. So It's a Wonderful Life. We try to watch It's a Wonderful Life like around Christmas. Love that movie. Anyway, and I love Christmas music. So like, again, the day after Thanksgiving, I start pumping it hardcore.
Okay, so Auntie ready. Auntie got a whole drawer. Auntie got a whole movie list, a whole song list, a whole decor list. Like, okay, like it's just ready, go time. Okay, I like that. I love that. Carol, you want to chime in?
Yeah, so I have really changed my thoughts over the years. I mean, I was raised in a Catholic family, gone to church, celebrated Christmas with midnight mass, those kinds of traditions. My parents have both been gone for many years now. I have a brother and sister that I don't really communicate with tremendously, for various reasons. And sometimes I'm, again, like around the holidays, I get sad about that, but I know that it would be too hard to have them in my day. So it's sort of better. um, and My husband is Jewish, and he doesn't particularly practice his religion. But when our son was born, we decided to share different kinds of traditions and knowledge and beliefs in a more spiritual way, and just more open about all different kinds, whether we knew them or not, or research different ones to figure out what they were about. My husband and I are also big foodies, so we like to celebrate food for different kinds of holidays and events, like music too, but the food is a part of it. So holding different food traditions for different holidays of different beliefs. Um, and we so the main thing that we do around Hanukkah is we don't do Hanukkah again in a big way, but we do light the menorah. And when my son was, I think, 6 or 5 or something like that, we had him light the menorah with his grandmother, even if she wasn't literally in the room. Like sometimes they would just call, say, okay, we're lighting the second one now, we're lighting the third one now. So that was a tradition that they did for about 5 or 6 years together before she passed, which was kind of nice. And he, he's 28 years old now, and he remembers those stories of that. I don't think he lights the menorah himself. He doesn't live in our house now, but we do every year. And again, we don't do anything in any extreme way, but we like to represent different things. And so we still do that. I have a Christmas tree too, a small one, and I have some Christmas decorations and, like I said, Christmas music, but not though in a religious way, is more of just a spiritual and belief in what is hope for me. So it's just a kind of but it's really made me think about combination of different kinds of celebrations and what's important to different people, what's important to me, and what I want to take kind of going forward. Um, so that's some things I wanted to share.
Absolutely. No, that's really like wholesome. Like even as you were sharing, I was just kind of like getting like this imagery and like, I don't know, like I appreciated that. I
Mhm.
also appreciated the concept of bringing up like ways to celebrate, right?
Yeah.
And what it means to people, like those traditions, those family gatherings, even the faith, not necessarily in a religious aspect, but a spiritual aspect as well. I vibe and resonate with that actually heavily. Being part Filipino, like you just went to midnight mass. It's just something we do in our house.
Right.
As a kid, I was like, man, I don't know why, like grumbling. I was like, why we gotta go to this so late? Even though I'd be up anyway playing video games. But now that I'm older, I enjoyed going with my mom because I knew that that's something that's so important to her. And because she's important to me, I'm a go. It's also the one time that like my brother also went, who's 7 years older than me. And so it's like the one time that we could be together, even though like in a very large mass of people.
Mhm.
And like I love them dearly and I wouldn't trade them for the world, even though my brother aggravates me, but I'll admit I love him too. So that's okay. So thanks for sharing that. The loves of certain holidays. Um, I'm trying to think personally as going for the home for the holidays is something that I do a lot. And I anytime I go home, I always get tattooed. I'm not gonna lie. That's kind of like my tradition for myself. Part of our culture, we have this saying that says, I want to be inked and lined like the fish in the sea. And so that's kind of something that resonates in my culture. And so that's kind of something I do every Christmas when I go home, especially kind of start of the new year. That's symbolic for me in that way. And so it's something I enjoy. So I wonder what that's going to look like this year since I'm not going home. So just kind of a quick poll. How many folks are going home for the holidays? Got a one? Ooh, ooh. How many y'all not? Just
Count me out.
Count you out.
Just kind of here. Yeah.
Kind of
You'll
here,
catch
yeah.
me in Boca Raton.
I forget we're on the radio. I should
Yeah.
say. I can't say out loud.
That's okay. I got you. Okay, bet. Okay, you got 1 versus 3. That's all right. That's all right. Is there any certain reasons? Does anybody want to test? So like to me, what made the decision for you to like to go home? And then I'll have Drew and Carol chime in for like, what's the decision to stay here?
Yeah, so I'm not, let me clarify. I'm not going home for Thanksgiving. I haven't gone home for Thanksgiving in a couple years, but I'm going home for Christmas. And so I stopped going home for Thanksgiving one year when I actually had to have a surgery right beforehand. And no, the first year, wait, was it the surgery? No, it was a surgery. Yeah. So I ended up not going because of the surgery. And then like the next year I got this thing, and y'all, this is not made up. It's not made up. It's called labyrinthitis. It is viral vertigo. Oh. And yeah, and so my friends used to joke around, they call it the David Bowie disease, like because of labyrinth. But it's real. It's real. And so essentially, like, I couldn't drive that year. So then that was 2 years in a row that I didn't go. And so after that, I was like, I kind of like not driving in all the traffic for Thanksgiving, because my family's in New Jersey, or they were, sorry, now they're spread between New Jersey and Pennsylvania, but like literally like you throw a rock and you're in New Jersey. So it was good to not go, because like Thanksgiving specifically is so hard because everybody travels like the same 2 or 3 days. And so I was so happy to so I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So anyway, so I haven't for the past few years, and I started having like a Friendsgiving here, inviting people over, making food, whatever. This is going to be a quieter year because of COVID. And so, you know, it might just be me. Somebody might come over. I don't know. It won't be a lot of people. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because I do have a little bit of traveling to do in December, if so long as, you know, COVID doesn't stop things. But Christmas, I always go home for Christmas. Can't imagine not being home for Christmas. And I have a complicated, how do I say this? The holidays actually do make me sad. And so I think part of what I did, and I'd say probably like right after college, started like putting a emphasis on, I don't know how to explain it, but like just the idea of holiday, of like Christmas as like a thing to celebrate, even sort of outside of like the family stuff, you know. Like I actually have a great family. We got a lot going on, you know. Certainly did not have much growing up, and like, but surrounded by people who did. So I just always had a complicated relationship with that. And yeah, but like now it's like I just love holiday. And so I go home and hang out and do a lot of nothing. My mother cooks and I eat a lot, and we usually do movies, you know, but we clearly won't be going to the movies this year. We usually like go to a movie. I've seen a lot of like really great movies, both on Thanksgiving and on Christmas, you know, like the evening after, like eat. But that's clearly not happening. We'll be watching anything, like watching stuff on TV. And yeah, even when they get on my nerves, I just love being surrounded by those people, especially during the holidays, passing out on the couch and all of that. But it is complicated. I'm not going to say that it's simple, you know, and it's gotten especially hard. Last year was the first year that we couldn't have my father home for Christmas. He's still with us, but he has dementia and he's in a facility. And before last year, he's been there for a couple of years. Before last year was the first year, like we just couldn't physically do it. It's just a lot now. And because he's less mobile. And so we went to see him on Christmas before we had dinner. And so that makes me sad, you know, but I just want to, go see them and be around those people that annoy me, but share my blood.
No, that's real. Thanks for that. And the concept of like how complex it is. Like I can hear the people that I love, but hear like all the other feelings that go along with that. And then also too, like thinking about the logistics, right? Like if I go, how am I going to go? And then when I'm there, how do we do X, Y, Z? So for sure. And we'll talk about, I think there's something interesting else that you brought up, this concept about like holiday and home. And so I think after we kind of address this question, I want to address kind of what those terms maybe mean to us. But we'll stick to other plans. Drew and Carol, what made you decide to stay? Or was it even a hard decision, easy decision? Is this what you usually do?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Was it an easy decision? Yes. I don't go home for the holidays. I don't prefer to go home for the holidays. I love to stay far away as possible. Um, that being said, it took some time, and again, I'm years old, and it took me a long time to figure out like how to make the holidays the best to my advantage. I used to hate Thanksgiving. I used to very much hate Christmas. Um, and they say your family isn't who you're born into, it's who you make your family. But even then, the people that I had in my family, they would go to their families. So it was kind of getting hard to enjoy the holidays because I would be at their family's house, watching them engage with their families and being like, man, I wish my family could act like this. Um, Now, as I have gotten older, I realize, I need to construct these holidays for myself, and then I'll start enjoying them. So I'm like, not necessarily going out of my way, but like Thanksgiving, I have one singular roommate, and the sister that I enjoy is coming, and we're just making the foods that we like. We're not making a Thanksgiving meal. We're not doing the turkey and cranberry. That's not really what I enjoy, but some things that we don't necessarily get to eat all the time, we're doing that. And Christmas, I'm starting to expand and decorate. I'm realizing that decorating for yourself because you want to is important. Um, and I have clearly have such an idea of what Christmas is because when I was younger, we used to live in Italy, and the holiday there is very different. Not necessarily because it's religious, but the day of the gift giving is on a separate day. That's on Three Kings Day. So Christmas itself, there's no gift giving. So it's all about that connection and family and enjoying company, and no one's working. And I just remember everything green and gold, like all the decorations were green and gold. So as I'm buying decorations, I'm realizing, oh my God, I'm buying everything in green and gold and not realizing what I'm doing. But I guess in my subconscious, that was when I had the most enjoyable holidays, was when I was there, when I was younger, when everyone was getting along. Um, so yeah, you have to celebrate in your own way. You don't have to go home to your family if you don't want to, and that doesn't mean like the holiday is awful. That just means you have to like redesign and redevelop what Christmas is. So that's why I choose to stay home, because it's more of a holiday for me.
And Best Friend handled that. No, I appreciate the answers, even the sharing of the decoration and how that's just coming back up and coming back through. But the definite concept of like redesigning and your stage of where you would go to other people's families when you're younger, and then to the stage you are now, you're like, oh, hold up, I got this. I'm gonna figure this out. This is actually how I want to do it from now on for me, so that I'm happy. That's what's up.
It's for me, not what I have to do because everyone's doing it.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that, and it took me a long time. I'm a lot older to get to that point. Certainly did the family things when I was younger, when I first got married, splitting time between this family, that family, even though that family didn't celebrate Christmas as much, but it was still a tradition to be there and all those kinds of things. When I was really young, I had lots of cousins around locally and did a lot of those kinds of family things together. Did I enjoy them? I don't know. Yes, I guess in some ways, but when you're in the midst of like 15 cousins, it also was, and I was one of the youngest, that's always not the best place to be either. So, but in more adult life, thinking about, what's important to me, and I myself have a small family. So now there aren't as many like blood relatives when I think of it that way. And even cousins and aunts and uncles don't live nearby, and we don't see each other to visit in that way. So my family is usually my friends. And I do appreciate, Drew, you saying that, like I have a good friend who visits her cousins all the time, her adult cousins, for Christmas. And I'm sort of a little envious of that relationship she has and thinking, how come I don't have cousins like that? But you just sort of make what you have and make what's important to you. And when you asked, are you going home for the holidays? This is my home. This is where I am. It's not that I'm not going anywhere. I'm just staying where I am. I don't have another place to go to. I don't have but that's okay. I'm not saying that in a way to be sad about it. This is where it is. And I'm in a different kind of place in my life. I have one adult child who usually goes to his girlfriend, fiance now, his family for Christmas, which is okay because they come to us for Christmas, for Thanksgiving, and then for Christmas they're there. So it's usually just me and my husband. And I remember a few years ago someone saying, "Oh, I feel so bad for you. You have no one around during Christmas." I'm like, "Well, but I do." I'm in my own place. We're making the food we want to make. We're listening to the music we want to listen to. We're decorating in the way that we want to, and we're together. And we've been together for 30 years, which is pretty remarkable at times when I think about it. So, like, what's wrong with that? So it's just choosing to have whatever you have. It doesn't have to be a house full of people, kids, dogs all over the place, and a million gifts or whatever. It can just be having time for yourself in the way that you want to celebrate it, as others were saying. So it's quieter and it's smaller. And to be honest, I didn't really need to make a decision this year because this is what I normally do on December 25 and around those dates. I do some other things with my chosen family of friends around the holiday time, but because they spend time with others, we don't all get together on December 25th. But we always talk about having several holiday days that we might see some people on the 27th or on the 28th. We do it with this family or with this group of friends or whatever it is. So, and it kind of spreads out. You know, some people have a birthday month. I sort of feel like we have a holiday season. And I just always call it holiday now because I don't think Christmas is the only part of what I celebrate anymore. So it makes it festive, but in a different way in smaller doses. And again, I think it's all about the choice that fits for you and what's right for you. So that's part of what I'm going to be doing. And it's not a matter of am I going home or not. I'm going to be in the same place. But that's okay because that's what I'm choosing.
Now, that being said, if anyone's having a Christmas party, I have a velvet green mini that I've been dying to break out. So just let it be known.
There you go.
So listen, the virtual Christmas party. I have this gold dress that I've been dying to wear. I got it like right before COVID, and
Me
no,
too. Me too. I got mine in February. It's velvet green. I've been dying to wear it. Yes.
Exactly, and nowhere to wear it.
How about
Okay.
a vision meeting?
That's it.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I thought for sure. I was like, okay, you know, the summer comes, and like I was talking about this with Drew and Jam earlier, that pretty much every year I go to the DJ party at the ICA at the end of the summer. They have DJ parties throughout the summer, but usually the last one is like a celebrity DJ. So I've seen Spinderella spin. I've gone when Jazzy Jeff was there, and it's just so much fun. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna wear this dress. This is the dress. Guess what? Nope.
No.
Haven't worn a damn thing.
Yeah.
COVID.
That's okay. Just like the choices we're about to make, we're about to, go ahead and create a rendezvous, and y'all better bust it out. I'm being serious. Y'all think I'm playing? I'm being dead serious. Because I got some jackets up in here. Don't make me put them on. I got you.
And I keep buying outfits to go where? I don't know.
I know. Right.
It don't matter. You look cute.
I will say that COVID times has reactivated an obsession that I had not had since grad school, because in grad school I went broke, obviously, because I was in grad school. So I stopped buying kicks. I stopped buying sneakers. Y'all.
It's back?
It's back. It's so
Lord.
back.
Okay.
I just bought Dame Sixes last week, and I can't wait till they get here. I got the shipping notification this morning, and I ran in circles. Listen, I've gotten like 6 pairs of kicks, but those I can wear. And so I have been wearing them. Once winter like really hits, I can't wear them, but for now I can.
You can.
Always inside.
That's all right. Yeah, there's always inside. And I mean, that's interesting. Like, I think a lot of what's coming up is like the choices that we're making, right? With the situations that we have. Even before COVID, right? There's all these transitional pieces that you all are mentioning, right? They're like, here's what I thought, here's what I did before. Now I'm coming to this stage of my life. Here's what I do now. And hopefully I can continue this tradition. Here's the other part of my stage of life that now this is what works, and it works very well. And so like even the choices that we're making, whether it's, return to buy some new kicks, which you have an immaculate taste of kicks, or in like Bes Fren with all your outfits, okay. It's not like you aren't gonna wear them. Like you're gonna wear them and be cute in them.
Yeah, but why now? Why don't I just wait until I can wear them? It's like my brain is like, but you need new clothes. You need
because
new
it might
outfits.
be gone. I mean, I should not be talking about
You
this.
just
I
gotta-
had
Well,
like I had gotten over these obsessions and so well, and now it's like because what we have the gift of time right now, and unfortunately, the gift of time means that we can use it to buy things as well.
but it's also a source of comfort, don't you think? I mean, it's whatever comforts you or makes you feel good at the time, whether it's, a brownie or a new pair of whatever, or a new skirt, whatever, like it's kind of what, so, I mean, and like you said, you're still going to have them. I mean, unfortunately, the brownie you won't have anymore, but, but like you'll still have these items and they make you feel it's kind of like decorations. They're a part of your room or your life or your closet, or you can hang them up and admire them right now for the time being, and then know you're gonna maybe put them on every so often, and you get back to it. Because again, we need to have hope we're going to get back to some things too.
Yeah, for sure. No, I appreciate you definitely saying that, right? The hope, the comfort.
Yeah.
And so that kind of makes me think of like, what would you say to our students who are listening on WCB right now, as far as like the holidays, whether you're going home or whether you're staying here? Because some of our students, I talk to our students a lot. Some of them have decided to stay. Some of them had anxiety about whether like, oh my gosh, do I go home? Do I not go home? But because of COVID kind of made the decision for them. And even though that's like not the most ideal way for a decision to be made for you, some of them also revealed to me that like, well, actually, like now I don't have to think about it. Like, am I a little sad? Yes, but maybe in the long run, it's okay. So there's like a lot going on with our students that have like revealed to me that some are deciding to go home. Like they're like, no, like actually, I'm tired of being here. I need to go home. I need to like be with the people that got me and I got them. So like there's a bunch of going on in the same sort of complexities that we're mentioning. What would you kind of say to our students right now?
I guess the repeat thing that comes to mind, and I said this briefly earlier, is that if you want to do something because you want to do it, that is reason enough.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, at this point in my life, I'm starting over again because I was doing things in my personal time that I thought would better my resume or better my family life, or, and I wasn't really thinking about what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had the time and I could have stayed like on campus or like, in a major city where I was going to school and I wanted to do that, then I totally would have done it. If I preferred to have gone home and been with my family, then do that. But don't look back on today and say, man, I wish I could have done this thing. Because that's when you start getting lost, is when you're looking back on your life wishing, I wish I'd done this then versus now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree with you. It's great words of advice. And maybe some decisions are made for you in right or wrong ways, or however it is right now because of COVID or travel bans or whatever might be the case. But when it comes down to it, you got to be happy with your decision and why you're doing what you're doing. And this is the time to explore what you normally do and to think, is that what I really want to do just because so and so wants me to be there? Or do I make my own plans? And maybe they're still part of my life, but in different ways. I want to celebrate with them in different ways now and create your own ways, create your pieces that are important for you, so that you're more settled with your thoughts and your feelings, and know that there'll be a lot of feelings. I mean, there's always, even birthdays kind of are sad sometimes. Everything's not always glorious. So there's always a mixed emotions at different kinds of holidays or celebrations, and just you have to kind of know that and accept that and be a part of it, and but choose what's right for you. I definitely agree with that statement.
Yeah, I agree too. Yeah, I really don't even know that I can say it better because there's so much pressure to like perform and be happy, you know, during this time. And there, trying to get around that and out of that, it's a journey, you know. And it's weird because I had just shared with you all the reasons why, like, I love the holidays and I celebrate the holidays, but it's almost like I had to sort of come full circle and to sort of realize that I'm celebrating existence. Like, I'm not necessarily celebrating too much beyond that. I had to make it very simple. Like, I couldn't make it about like everything is great, certainly not, or, you know, like my family is whole, or my family has all the things that humans should have, you know. Like, I couldn't make it about that, like about we're giving the best gifts, or even some gifts sometimes, you know, or any gifts. And so, you know, it literally had to be about existence and gratefulness, you know, for what is. And then I had to also do the parallel process of realizing that gratefulness for what is isn't always about like, I'm grateful for the best home or the best car or the best this, like, and that was just such a growing period. So I guess all that to say that when you come through the process, because I think young people, students will too, and we'll start to see things in a different light, you know. Don't sort of be angry with yourself for sort of where you were before, or horribly harsh or judgmental, or feel like you've wasted any time. Like, it was all part of the process. Like, even the sad times are part of that process. So of learning and growing into where you are now.
For sure. Thanks for all the words of wisdom, y'all. I mean, I think about all the choices we've already had to make, right, in this year, and like we're still making them and figuring out what else works. And so it's things that we as humans have been doing, right, whether forced to or whether because we wanted to, but hopefully even like in the coercion, there's some sense of like, okay, I can't control the situation. I can't even necessarily maybe control these other folks, because I'm just also going to acknowledge that, you know, some of our students and some of our people have to go back into homes that are not homes. And that is absolutely tough and difficult. But then thinking about, okay, what are the things that I can do though for myself, for me? And I'm not saying those things are easy by any means, but if you know that there are, so for me, I'm kind of nomadic. The reason why I have to usually travel home is because I'm never ever home in my adult life. I'm living in a different place all the time, being in different spaces. And even when I did live in Ohio, Ohio's home for me. Um, I would very much do the thing that Drew was doing, was going to like friends of families and, you know, gatherings and things, just because, you know, maybe there just wasn't a gathering that year or something that my family, whatever the situation was. But then having to figure out what was good for me and what was good enough and what I enjoyed and what I loved. Um, and so if home for you is not home, who are the people you call home? Because for me, there are pockets of people who are my home. And I would love nothing more if I can't physically be with them, then hey, can we FaceTime? Can I get like some of your time? Like, I know you're busy. And then maybe some people are just really good at having solace and reflection times with themselves. Like, if there's any way that you can be away from those things that benefit you, obviously definitely encourage those things. I'm not saying that those energies aren't going to make it difficult for you, because I know some family members are instigators and provocateurs, but again, still kind of finding ways where you're okay. Even if you're mourning and going through the sadness, I think a lot of this year is also about mourning some of the things that have been lost, right? And then I think that can also exude gratefulness as well. You're like, dang, I didn't know that I cared so much about that thing until now. And that's part of the growth process. So I just kind of wanted to add and reiterate those things, and hopefully that gives some sort of hope and some sort of semblance and some tools for our young people. And I especially wanted to focus on, you know, I know what it's like to go to a place where you're not necessarily going to be okay or accepted, but for some reason you have to go.
That just reminds me of toolkits and something I wanted to bring up. I call her my sister, but we're not biologically related. And I always say worlds apart, but sisters at heart. Because we really are worlds apart. I mean, on paper, we are, if you read us on paper, you probably wouldn't even knew that we knew each other. I mean, she lives in Korea right now. Her family comes from Guyana, mine comes from Italia. And I know that she's there, and we just have like a very open and honest communication. We're like, holidays are hard for us. You know, I have a tough family. She has, I think, an even harder family, and we don't try to interject each other into each other's families. We're just there for each other, and you know, we're 13 hours apart now, but we try to communicate as often as possible. And sometimes I'll send her a message at like 2 in the PM here and just say, hey, when you get up, I just need you to call me for like 5 minutes. And that has always helped. I mean, even during the holidays, I'll like step away and go into the bathroom and be like, girl, can I call you real quick? And it works. It just works for us. So it's trusting your instinct on a strong relationship. And if you have issues in a relationship, read those flags because they're often telling you something.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely wholesome for sure. Yeah, thanks for bringing the toolkits. That's definitely what we wanted to have as part of this conversation. So, Tamia, Carol, feel free to also chime in. I noticed that, you know, Carol, you mentioned you were a foodie. You know, if you're not able to necessarily go home or whatever, but kind of like what Drew was saying too, like let's fix the things that we like. I know that this year I won't be able to go home, so I'm definitely gonna miss some of my mom's cooking. But my mom is really awesome about calling me all the time. I'm like, damn, mom, what she want now? But really, that's just me being like a younger, annoying kid, right? Like I'm the youngest, I'm the baby. So I still have baby tendencies. I ain't gonna lie to you. And so when she's bothering me, that's my mother showing her love. And so it's nothing for me to be like, mom, you know that one dish that you always make? How do you make that? And for me, that's always been something really cool in my life as I explore my culture more and get more rooted into it as I get older. And like, you know, these are traditions and cultures that I want to continue with like my own future family when I have one with my now fiance. And so like that's kind of a cool thing for me. For me, it's food. Like it's all about the food. Like the reason I went home was for the food. I ain't gonna lie to you. I eat a lot. So I'm thinking about what are the things that would bring me comfort as far as food goes.
Well, and I think for the food piece for me, it's about comfort. It's about exploring like different ways and history. You know, like sometimes I will find an old recipe. I have a couple of my mother's like sort of cookbooks, but they're kind of her own like binders that she put together that are ancient, like 50 years old. That, you know, things that I didn't really even know her watching her cook them. I just ate them, you know. But I like every so often I'll pull out certain things and say, "Wow, I remember when she made this when I was like 10 years old." And then I might try to make it, and you know, the recipes are clear, so you can do it easily enough. And then I actually have some of her dishes and kitchenware, and like every so often I'll look at a plate that I might have. I don't have like full sets or anything, but I have this, you know, misplaced plate and think, this I think was from my grandmother that was given to my mother that I don't even know if she knew I have now, but I just think of who used this and what table was this at. So it's a little historical for me also, some of those kinds of traditions or food related kinds of things. And it's some of it's, you know, ethnic pieces, or you know, certain holidays in lots of different ways. Celebrations, maybe celebrations is the right word, more so than holidays. Like we always make this when there's someone's bridal shower, you know, whatever that might be, that certain dessert. You don't make that dessert on any other day, you make it only then, for certain kinds of traditions or celebrations. So it's interesting kind of looking back on some of those kinds of things and incorporating some of those. And it tends to be November, December, where we pull out those things. I don't know if it's affiliated with the holiday or with that date, but it's around that time when I like exploring. Maybe it's the colder weather, being inside and exploring those kinds of older recipes or patterns of things. And you know, the food is comfort then too.
Yes, I love that. I'm glad that your mother's cookbook has all the clear recipes, because my mom would be like, you just put a handful of this and you put that. I'm like, Mom, but how much?
Yeah.
You know, you just put it in, you taste it.
Yeah.
Like, help me. That's
Yeah.
okay, because now I can't even say nothing, because now I'm exactly the same way. Like, I'm my mother. I'm not gonna lie.
That's how my mother
irritating.
operates too.
My
I'm
mother
so
was
aggy.
very clear, like so much on the other extreme though, you know, like everything, because I kind of modify what was there clearly written out. Everything is typed perfectionist, you know, which was her way. But I tend to modify some for what I like of taste. So maybe we switch generations.
That's all right. I love that. Again, like the choices, right? Like what works for you.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. But here's like this preserved like legacy, this history though, which is really also cool.
And I just remembered this. I always make apple pie for Thanksgiving when my son comes over, right? And when he was in college, he brought friends home from college. I was just thinking about that. A lot of international students who didn't go home would come to our house for Thanksgiving because, you know, we lived in Boston. He went to school in Pennsylvania. So, you know, it was a chance for them to explore Boston for a few days. And so we would make different kinds of food and host these other students that came to our house. And I remember always making, I mean, an apple pie is a pretty basic thing, but we always followed my mother's recipe for the Thanksgiving time of apple pie. And I remember even just a couple years ago when my son wasn't living in here, you know, he had his own place, and him saying, well, maybe I'll come the day before because I know you make the pies ahead of time. And, you know, like I'll just come over for the afternoon so we can make apple pie together because I like making apple pie with you. And I was just like, talk about melting my heart. That was like, wow, what a nice little thing. We don't always do it every year because, you know, sometimes you have to work the day before, but it was just that nice thought that came out. And we did do it a couple times when we could. So there's different kinds of thoughts and activities you could express that carry on a tradition that you don't maybe do every single time, but it's reminisce or it reminds you of what it was or that activity itself. So that's always kind of a nice, again, it just melted my heart. Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. I love that. Auntie, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, food wise, every year it's I always say that my mother acts like she's cooking for the multitude. Like, and for the longest time I only knew how to cook for like a million people and not just two. And so it was really stressful, in the best way possible. But you know, I loved being in the kitchen and being a part of that process. So, you know, even the years where things were tight and tough, we always had a meal. And like that just goes without saying. And it's, you know, it's like my mother's from Georgia, my father's from Alabama. And so, you know, it's the things that you would imagine that would be on the plate, you know, for that time. And so it's so tasty, y'all. It's so good. And it's so funny. There's actually something going around right now. It was on the Black Student Affairs Professionals Facebook group, and it said something. If I was smart, I would have pulled this up already, but I wasn't. But it talks about how like if you're Black, then like you essentially don't eat until dinner on Thanksgiving and on Christmas. And and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is such a problem, and it's such a problem, and it's all of us. Like, unless you get in the kitchen, you know, before it all starts to go down on the holiday. It already started, of course. It already started like the day before, 2 days before, or whatever. But like that specific day, unless you get your butt in the kitchen before it goes down that day, like you're not eating until the meal is ready. I think that learning that was part of the reason why I decided that I was going to be the person to be in the kitchen to help. And that is essentially, I learned how to cook by learning how to cook holiday meals initially. And then that's how I learned how to cook other things. So yeah, just so I can like, you know, sneak a little piece of something like here and there, because the rules are very tight around that. But you know, the sweet potato pies and the yams and the mac and cheese and the greens, and just it's all so tasty. And I've done that here a few times. Like if I'm gonna have like a number of people here, I'll do that. But yeah, food is just such an important part of all of it. Yeah, inextricably linked to these holidays. So I'm trying to figure out like where I'm going to get my meal from this year, because I don't plan on cooking, but I did hear that Narissa is going to be making some little Cornish hens. So I'm trying to get on the list for one or two of those. And then I'll just do like sides myself, you know.
Okay, but you just need a blaster on WECB. Now that list don't
I
be
know,
long. See what you
everybody's gonna be
did?
like,
Heck
you know?
nah. Leave Auntie alone. Mm-mm.
And there will be boxes in my driveway, but I'm not telling anyone where I live.
I just love the concept of food for the holidays and what that means to everyone. If anyone hasn't read Fish Cheeks by Amy Tan, I suggest reading that. It's really good. But like for Thanksgiving for me too, we come from Italy, and when people have this idea of like Italian food, it's like the pastas and lasagnas and stuff. But that's not how we eat. So whenever we had guests over, it was like we'd have like rice balls and falafel. And people would be like, "What is this?" I'm like, "This is what we eat." And lentils. My mother always makes lentils too, or lamb. And they'd be like, "There's no turkey. There's like a lamb." And they're like, "What is this?" It's kind of like My Big Fat Greek Wedding, if you've ever seen that one either, where they're like, "What is all this food?" But it's kind of cool because like even in here, like the four of us all have like a different meal for Thanksgiving, like what that means, like what the Thanksgiving table looks like for us. And I brought up Amy Tan's Fish Cheeks because that's her story, is like bringing people over. She's Chinese American, and bringing people over, and they have like Chinese food for Thanksgiving, and her friends that are American being confused. I'm like, where's the turkey?
No, I definitely love that point. My household's very multiracial, so it's interesting. So like as Tamia is talking about, if you gonna eat, you better be in the kitchen so you get some. Because I remember when I was younger and I wasn't in the kitchen, trying to sneak some in my hand, getting smelly. What you doing? Like go over there, like go watch the children. I'm like, oh man, like I can't have just a little piece. It's not done yet. But all the different types of food that are just at our table because of being multiracial, from like the sweet potatoes and the yams and the cornbread, also being from the South, then to like sinigang, which is a Filipino sour soup with braised pork and stuff in it. So like there's just a bunch of different things, which I think is also cool. As we're kind of closing this out, I just kind of want to implore like our young people, you know, we talk a lot about traditions, but that doesn't mean that you can't start creating your own, right? And what that shift looks like. If you think you don't have the means to like make a meal, like we do have, you know, COVID relief programs. We do have what is it? It's SAF, student access funds. What is that, through the Office of Student Success?
Yeah.
So you know there are
Student assistance fund.
Student assistance fund. Thank you. There are ways to like, you know, maybe get for some groceries. You know, you do deserve something good for yourself every day, honestly. But you know what? Especially during like, you know, that one celebration or like around this thing, or maybe just this week, you want to do something extra for yourself, do it. If you need ways to find ways to do it, you're more than welcome to contact intercultural at emerson.edu, and we'll definitely get you linked up with the right resources to do so. We're always about that. And like for real, Pinterest, make a Pinterest board, y'all. Figure out something you might want to try or make or do, even if it's just a dessert. I promise you the ingredients shouldn't be that expensive for whatever you're trying to make. And if it is, maybe you need to look at a different recipe. I'm just being honest with you too. I'm just saying. But as we come to a close, is there anything else that anybody else wants to add to this conversation?
Oh, didn't realize I wasn't on mute, but just that there's some really cool things happening in and around Boston if you're not heading home or heading out of Boston. And obviously everything is COVID dependent, but the ICA is open, the MFA is open. That's something else I'd like to do, like that weekend after, is to go to those places and experience those things. There used to be some really great like holiday markets that took place. I don't know if those things are going to happen because of COVID. So, you know, just go to boston.com. We'll also be sure to post things on our IG, our intercultural IG. So we're at Emerson Intercultural. So that way folks can find things once we know that they are for sure a go. Oh, and then one other thing is I also like to make a short list of things that I want to focus on for that time. So like I have like a list of 3 things. Only one would be interesting, which is just to read. But I always have like little mini projects that I like to do during the breaks. And I try to keep it very attainable, you know? So that's another recommendation.
For sure. I love that. That brings me to another thing, like to me, what you just mentioned. I was thinking about how, you know, the ending of the year and the beginning of the year are such pivotal times for people, right? And so not that you haven't been doing some reflection or thinking all year, I'm sure, with the extra time, but then what does it mean to close out this year? How has it looked different, right, in years past? And then what is the new year looking like? I mean, Drew, it's your favorite holiday, so maybe you can, like, you know, speak more to that, but anybody else that can add, feel free.
My thing is decorate. I know that sounds silly, but like it changes so much. It truly does. Like when you evolve your place, your settings, your wardrobe, whatever it is, even just get a gingerbread house and make one, like those, they change your whole perception on like what it means to celebrate the holiday. New Year's is my favorite. It's introducing a new year. Again, to me, I do the same thing. I make a goal list of the year. I just love it. I love it. Get some fireworks. That's my favorite thing to do, is set fireworks off on New Year's. That's an Italian thing. That's a big European thing.
I would agree too with like that, making a list or getting a chart or something, whatever you might call it for yourself. I mean, obviously not a huge list that's not attainable. The key is to make it attainable, but something that's gonna, you know, that you think about for a little while, that you plan for, that you strategize about, and that will have an impact. And you know, 1 or 2 things, just that, and that you try to remember them. You know, don't put those 10 things you think you're going to do that after January 5th, they don't last. But things that are more impactful and that can be meaning for you. The other thing I would say is that, you know, particularly if you want to take time to read things you don't normally read during the school year, things that are going to be inspirational for you, because you've been in this reading and screen world with classes. So find other kinds of ways to acquire knowledge and enjoyable knowledge for you during the break time, because that will regenerate you.
Beautiful. I just want to say thank you to all of you that came through. Like, I knew it was just us, but I know that students do listen on WCB. I know that they're all going through things right now. But this will also is a recorded session, so it'll be posted on our YouTube, so they'll also view it later. And I just appreciate y'all and everything that you had to offer as far as collective wisdom. Like, it's really helpful, and it's making me think of some other things that maybe I can do. So I just want to say thank you. Like, Kara, you can come through anytime. Like, we just gonna add you to the list. And Bes Fren,